What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Lakers Outsiders podcast and stream. I am your host, Gary Kester, here with you as always for the second time today. Wow, this is weird, but I'm joined as always by my good pal Honi Ahmadian. And Honi, I have a question for you right off the bat. Did the Los Angeles Lakers get that Celtic ass?
I don't have a cigar with me, but I can clap. Yes, they did.
That is right. The Lakers go into Boston and it is much better results this time around than it was last year. And Anthony Davis acknowledges in his post-game interview that the Lakers remembered how their last trip to Boston went and it did not go well. It goes a little bit better this time. I would say a lot bit better, I guess. But we still left with some, I don't want to say negative emotions, but negative health effects, I guess, from the game. Last year, we left the game pissed off that they just didn't show up and got blown out of the building. This game, the Lakers win by 1, but man, I had flashbacks to about 3 days ago with Tobias Harris's jumper. Kemba Walker had a similar look, and his did not go down.
Yeah, that was it was a very heart-wrenching finish to the game, I guess I would say. The Lakers obviously took a pretty decent lead, and then they almost choked it away. And God bless Alex Caruso, and to a smaller extent Dennis Schroeder, for their defense on that last possession, just saving them from really blowing it.
Yeah, that was man, that the ball like floating in the air on that last Kemba shot. I had time to think of 6 different things, but the first thought was I immediately had PTSD from Tobias Harris's game winner just a few days ago. Luckily, Kemba Walker was very valuable to the Lakers tonight, shooting 1 for 12, I believe, including the last miss there. We did talk about that in our pregame stream, that slowing him down was going to be important. I also did not anticipate – I anticipated good performances out of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I did not expect them to both be prime Michael Jordan and shoot, I think, a combined 25 of 37 from the field. They were both fantastic. And we said that going into this game, that slowing those guys down was going to be key because they are 2 big wings, and that's usually a pretty tough cover for anybody in the league, as we see with the Clippers as well. Clippers have 2 big wings that can score and defend. Celtics have that as well with those 2 guys, and they were a problem, but the Lakers dug deep to find a way to get a win. And I will give you credit with the bets, right? We both said the Lakers would cover 3.5. They were on their way. They were up 7 with a couple minutes left, and then they just stalled out. But you said the game would go under 219.5. I said it would go over. It doesn't even come close to hitting under 200. So I will give you credit. You called it. There was some poor shooting offensively. It was just kind of a rough game for both teams.
Yeah, it was definitely like a defensive sort of. I feel like when I think of the Lakers-Celtics rivalry, obviously there's been plenty of games that are high scoring, but I kind of think of it this way. That's my nostalgia of it, is all these defensive battles, and teams not really scoring well or not shooting the ball well. So that's kind of what I was expecting, or maybe even hoping for a little bit. But going back to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, man, if you told me before this game that those 2 were going to outscore LeBron and AD, there's no way I would have believed the Lakers won the game. But they just, the defense worked well enough against everybody else. Daniel Tice had his moments, but other than that, really, the Celtics didn't get a whole lot of scoring from anybody. And the Lakers did basically just enough to really overcome that, which is probably a pretty good sign moving forward.
Yeah, one guy that really stepped up with LeBron and AD having, I don't want to say subpar games, just not their best games. AD still had 27 points, 14 rebounds, but he was 11 of 25. LeBron was 7 of 17. Montrezl Harrell had a really good game, and checking the game logs, as I kind of noticed kind of deeper into the fourth quarter, that he had been in the game for a while. And I don't know why this is a thing. This was a thing with him with Doc Rivers and the Clippers, and it seems to happen sometimes with the Lakers as well, getting really long stints. Especially, he does have a really high motor. He's a high-energy player. Usually with those guys, you maximum. We see it with Alex Caruso, right? Another high-energy type player. Mm-hmm. Frank Vogel's kind of talked about, trying to limit his minutes a little bit so that you don't overwork him. I'm surprised we don't see that more with Montrezl Harrell because just looking at the game logs, and I'd have to go back and like look at the tape, I guess, and really look into it because I don't know how accurate sometimes the play-by-plays get kind of messed up. But he entered, I believe, with like 5.5 minutes left in the third quarter, and I'm not sure he really left the game after that. So it was a long stint for him. He ended up with 29 minutes, but he was 8 of 10 from the field, 16 points, 5 boards. He had 3 blocks and a couple steals. He was really good tonight, and he was kind of that third guy for the Lakers when they really needed it to get that production, not only offensively, but he gave it to him defensively as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Trez is one of those guys where if he kind of has it going early, it really feeds into how he plays the rest of the game. And I think he was pretty much phenomenal the whole game. You know, there were moments where the Celtics went at him defensively, but overall, I thought he played really well on that side. He obviously got, I think, 2 steals and 3 blocks through the night. And then offensively, he is really, really good. I saw Pete Zayas point this out as well, but he's really, really good at kind of finding pockets of space in the paint where he can get a pass from the guards or LeBron or whoever, and then get a shot up really quickly. This is a very underrated quality of his, I think, and he was really showing that tonight. And then, yeah, you know, just the energy that he gives. But I do agree with you that the long stretches, that's something that really bit the Clippers in the ass in the playoffs at times, of having Trez play those long minutes, because then, you know, his energy dwindles, which is understandable. If you're playing like 16 straight minutes, you're not going to be playing as hard at the 16th minute that you were in the first minute. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I think Vogel is going to have to really figure out. I don't know if he intended on him playing that long. I think he probably would have anticipated benching him late in the game and having AD play center with just LeBron probably as the 4. But I think Trez played so well that he kind of forced his hand. But yeah, moving forward, that is something that we should be keeping an eye on. Of, you know, how to optimize and get Trez on the floor as much as you can, but not really force him to play these long stretches where he ends up not doing as well towards the end of it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like I said, it's a weird thing with Trez. I don't know why I guess it's a thing, but I don't know. I don't know if Trez just, you know, gives the vote of confidence that, hey, like I'm good to go. Like you can leave me in there or whatever. But it's very interesting to see him get very, very long stints, given that he is that type of player. But hey, I mean, it works sometimes. I think it didn't work earlier in the season in that Portland game, but it worked tonight, man. Trez was really, really good. I was told by a certain fan base that he is incapable of playing defense, but he played really good defense today. It's weird. It's almost like I was lied to. But yeah, this was a really fascinating game to me because, like, you could tell, I think, by watching it and by looking at the box score. So the Lakers went with a 9-man rotation, right? Very unlike them. You know, some guys, I think Markieff Morris didn't play, Wesley Matthews didn't play. So they went with a shorter rotation tonight, kind of part of Frank Vogel's, you know, experimentation that he's basically using the whole season to do, and, you know, as he should. And the Celtics, when you look at their rotation, they went 10 deep. I mean, had, you know, their bench didn't play a whole lot. Tatum played 39 minutes. Jaylen Brown played 37 minutes. Tice played 34 minutes. So it was a game that you could tell both teams really wanted to win. Like, it did have, obviously, it's a regular season game in late January, but it had a little bit of a playoff feel in certain moments of the game, and you could tell just based off of like I said, not only the play but kind of the rotations as well. I think the Lakers definitely wanted this game, but I think the Celtics wanted it just as bad given their rotation and playing their big guns heavy minutes. I think the Lakers really wanted no part of losing 3 games in a row, and I think they really went hard after this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, AD talked about this in his post-game interview, basically saying there's no way we were going to lose this game. They came pretty close to losing this game, but
that's like me turning in my homework assignment at 11:59. There's no way I was turning that in late.
Yeah, they definitely did seem to put in a more like concerted 48-minute effort. I thought there were some stretches where, especially in that third quarter, where I thought they got really lackadaisical. And I don't know if that was effort or if it was lack of focus or some combination of both, or just, shots aren't going in and whatnot. But they had their rough stretches, which they've had throughout most of the season as they're still trying to figure stuff out. But in terms of just putting in the effort to win a game, I was more than pleased about that. It was just a matter of, getting all the little attention to detail stuff to go as well, considering, shots weren't falling as much as they usually do for this team.
Yeah, the third quarter was rough. I would say the Lakers played a pretty good 36 minutes of this game. Lost the second, so won the first quarter by 4, lost the second quarter by 1, lost the third quarter by 10, 29-19. But then they come back and win the fourth quarter, 25-17. They really limited their turnovers. I think they only had the one turnover when LeBron dribbled it off his foot and went out of bounds. I think the Celtics, I don't remember how many turnovers in the fourth they ended up with. I know at one point they had 6. So Lakers really clamped down defensively. They secured rebounds, and they just kind of flipped that switch when they really needed to, and they clamped down defensively. They got stops. They got some shots. I thought they got better shots in the fourth quarter than they did in the third quarter. I was watching the game with my dad, and I told him a couple times in the third quarter, like, the Celtics are getting shots in the paint right now, and the Lakers are settling for jumpers. Like, there's some possessions where there's really no ball movement, no man movement, and they cleaned that up quite a bit in the fourth quarter. I thought they executed a lot better, got some better looks, and just played better basketball. And you saw it reflected in the fourth quarter tally, and then, of course, in the final scoreboard. I mean, they tried the damnedest to give it away because, like I said, they were up 7. There were a couple minutes left when Schroeder got the N1. I thought, I didn't think the game was in the bag, but I was feeling pretty good about it. And then it's like all of a sudden, Kemba Walker has a look that he's hit probably 1,000 times in his career to try and win the game. And then Tice with the putback, I don't know if he would have gotten it off in time. It would have been really close. But that would have been a brutal way to lose. So luckily the Lakers found a way to win because, man, that would have been – I don't think my heart could have taken that. 2, buzzer-beating game-winning shots in the span of a week. That would have just been brutal.
Yeah, it really would have been. Especially somebody pointed this out in our mentions too that when Caruso AC got back in time to prevent Jaylen Brown from getting a shot up, that Jaylen Brown did the thing that he did the entire night of pushing off on him as well. And I was like, man, if he got that bucket after pushing off on AC, I would have been so pissed if that was the way that they won. That was also a very annoying aspect of this game. If there's one dude on the Celtics that I really like, it's Jaylen Brown, but he was pissing the hell out of me today.
Yeah, there was some questionable stuff. AD caught a shot to the we'll call it the midsection, I guess.
To the brows. That's what I called it.
Yeah, I don't know. There was some stuff happening in the game, but the whistle was very inconsistent, and that was kind of frustrating. Like, there was a couple charge calls on the Lakers that I thought when the Lakers tried to do the same thing on the other end, they didn't get the benefit of the whistle. They did shoot more free throws though, and the Lakers won. So obviously, when your team wins, the refs aren't as bad as they seem. So. But no, I mean, it was cool to see the Lakers really dig deep and find a way to win this game. Just looking at some numbers, didn't shoot the ball well overall, 44%. The Celtics shot 48.8%, but neither team shot well from 3. The Celtics were 6 of 21. Lakers were 9 of 31, and also missed 6 free throws and shot 68% from the line, but the Celtics only shot 64% from the line as well. I mean, a lot of stuff was very, very close in this game, which I guess you might expect with it being a 1-point game. But I was just impressed with the Lakers hitting timely shots. I thought the Lakers got more from their guards than Boston did, and that was one thing that we mentioned before the game. We both, I think, picked Marcus Smart to be that role guy that hit a bunch of shots. Luckily, he did not hit 8 threes like we predicted. He was 0 of 3 from the three-point line, and we want to send out well wishes to him. Hope he's okay. He did leave the game with a calf injury that looked like it hopefully is nothing serious. Hopefully it's just a strain and he's not out too long, but it did look pretty wicked to see the replay on that one. So hopefully he's okay, and hopefully that's not something serious, and hopefully he's back on the floor very, very quickly for them. So I want to send well wishes to Marcus Smart. But yeah, the Laker guards, even though I don't think the Laker guards had like a great game, I thought they got enough from kind of the trio that we talked about in the pregame: Alex Caruso, Dennis Schroeder, and Taylor Horton Tucker. That kid just continues to impress me with some of the reads and stuff that he makes, some of the finishes. He had a couple really nice passes to Montrezl Harrell. He had a kind of a spin move where he then kind of stopped and then faded and hit it off the backboard and banked it in. He's really, really impressive. And I thought Caruso, I mean, listen, single game plus minus can be very flawed. But Alex Caruso being plus 14 in 19 minutes, I don't think was
in a 1-point game.
I don't think that was overly flawed in this game. Like, you could tell there was a pretty significant difference in not only the Lakers defensively, because he was chasing around Jason Tatum, a guy that's much bigger than he is in this game. But offensively, man, like, if you just watch Alex Caruso, I mean, even there's possessions where he doesn't even get the ball or anything. He just seems like he's always in the right place. He had a couple flashes to kind of the high post, like, because the Celtics played a little bit of zone here and there. Gets in the middle of the defense. He had one in the fourth quarter where he relocated to the corner. I thought the Lakers could have hit him for a three, but they missed him. He's just, I don't know, man. I was telling a friend of mine the other day that he is just like the perfect complement, I think, to a guy like LeBron in terms of both defensively and offensively. If he's hitting threes the way he has been this year, he's just such a positive for this team. And, I know we're kind of clamoring for him to get more and more minutes, but as long as, they just keep him healthy, keep him fresh, going into the playoffs, and then, they ramp up his minutes, I think we'll be okay, because we know just the impact that he has on this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think you even kind of saw it today with Vogel deciding to bench Wesley Matthews, who is obviously a respected veteran and somebody that the Lakers had high hopes for when they signed him to get THT playing time. I think it kind of proves that this is all fluid and that he has an idea of what guys like Caruso and KCP can do, because he watched them all of last year, and is more willing to try to test out stuff with Schroeder and Wesley Matthews and THT even, to try to figure out what those guys can give him, which I'm totally fine with. Obviously, we want Caruso to play more minutes because he's a damn good player, and the Lakers tend to outscore teams when he's on the floor. It's not just like this single game plus minus. Like, a very basic way of looking at it is that the Lakers seem to consistently have really, really great second quarters after coming out kind of flat in the first quarter. And guess who's always on the floor in the second quarter and never on the floor in the first quarter? It's Alex Caruso. I think that's a big testament to what kind of energy he provides to this team. But it's not even just energy. Like, he's just a good basketball player. He's smart. The flashing to the high post that you talked about, the one play where I think it was in the fourth quarter where he kind of just flashed into the center of the paint in the zone on a nice back cut. LeBron found him, and he had just a inch perfect touch pass to Montrezl Harrell for a layup. That was incredible. It's stuff like that he does. He might not be a flashy dribbler. He might not be, anything. Like, he's not a superstar player like some other guys, but he makes so many smart, good basketball plays at all times that that he does end up being a superstar. Sorry, that's how I want to
say he's a superstar to some of us, Honi. No, he's just really good, man. He's a good NBA player, and he was obviously the meme the last couple of years or whatever, and everybody thought he was just a joke because he's this balding white guy that came up from the G League, and like, oh, he's the fun little role player to root for, whatever, but he's not really anything, whatever. This dude's legitimately good, man, and he makes an impact even when his counting stats don't necessarily show it. Like I said, just watch his tape, man. His tape just stands out. Like, it's just I wasn't even really looking to like observe him in this game, and he just jumped out in this game, especially because he's just in the right place at the right time. He's playing good defense. Saved an easy go ahead bucket by sprinting back and getting in front of Jaylen Brown, and I thought he was going to come up with that ball. But Jaylen Brown, give him credit, got possession of the ball, got the Celtics a good look. But I mean, that play is saved in part because of Alex Caruso, and I'm continue to be impressed by him, and I hope that he is a Laker for quite some time. And if other NBA team signs him, I'm going to be very, very upset, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's not going to be pretty.
Going to be on that list. We're going to send some sternly worded letters if anybody even interviews him or gives him an offer.
I will call all the Popeyes in the area and tell that general manager to never serve that general manager a Popeyes chicken sandwich ever. So
that's the right way to do it.
I know. You got to hit him where it hurts, man. So, no, I mean, this game was frustrating. It was beautiful. It was everything in between. I mean, it was just a really weird game. And it's weird in this day and age, too, to see games finish in the 90s. But that's what this game was. I mean, it was, one team was, I thought, really good. I thought the Lakers were a little lackadaisical in the third quarter. They were very sloppy with the basketball. And the Celtics played harder. They played much harder. They had a lot of energy. They executed a lot better, and they got a lot better looks. They were getting some looks around the basket while the Lakers were settling. And I thought the Celtics did a good job in the third quarter attacking the Lakers' switches on defense. They were recognizing those much better in the third quarter and either attacking off the dribble or they were getting the ball inside against smaller Laker players and getting some easy looks. Lakers, I think, adjusted a little bit better in the fourth quarter. The rotations were better. They had one, I don't know why ESPN kept switching to certain camera angles, but one did kind of show the Lakers' rotation, and it was just kind of a whole unit kind of rotating together, and they forced a shot. Contested miss late in the shot clock. So the defensive execution was just much better in the fourth quarter for the Lakers, and I think that kind of stuff typically feeds into their offense, and they did have one where Trez comes up with a steal, gets it out ahead to LeBron. LeBron, gets it back to Trez for a dunk. Stuff like that. It's all fluid, right? So, really good win. I mean, whenever you can beat, as Pete Zaya said, you can't get too excited about beating a team that's barely over 500, but whenever you can win at Boston, it's a beautiful thing, especially after what we saw last year. So, I just wish one time it wouldn't be like on a last-second shot, Like we had Rondo a few years ago. We have Kemba missing a very makeable look. And also, like, Paul Pierce, after the game, was, like, criticizing the Celtics for that shot. Like, oh, he should have taken it out and gotten it to Tatum and whatnot. It's like, yeah, I get Tatum was, like, the hot hand, but, like, dude, Kemba Walker has hit that shot 1,000 times in his career, and especially with like the game on the line ever since he was at UConn. Like, that's kind of his shot, and it just didn't drop. The Lakers kind of got away with that.
Paul Pierce being on my television is only good when the Lakers beat the Celtics. A beautiful part of the post-game show was him talking about the Celtics having to feel encouraged because they were in this game without Kemba scoring very well and Marcus Smart going down with an injury and leaving. And then he finished his statement, and Maria Taylor was like, yeah, well, if you're the Lakers, you got to be even more encouraged because you won the game, and went straight into highlights of a different game, so he couldn't say anything. Incredible moments.
Shout out to Maria Taylor. Yeah, no, I was dying laughing at that because I'm like, dude, like in that situation, where especially kind of a scramble like that, they got a great look, and Lakers get away with. And hey, that's what we said in the pregame, right? Is like the Lakers are going to have nights where they go ballistic from three, and they're going to have nights where they don't hit threes at all. And we saw that the last couple games, really the last like 3 games now. They didn't really shoot well in this one either. But like the Sixers game, couldn't really hit a lot of threes until late in that game. And we like a perfect example of basketball in general. Tobias Harris gets the shot, down 1, final seconds, hits it. Lakers lose. Kemba gets the shot, down 1, misses it. Lakers win. That's how the game goes, So everybody, let's not overreact to every single loss. This team is still very good, and they're gonna have close games. Sometimes you're gonna lose. Sometimes you're gonna win. So tonight was a win. And hey, if you'd have said Sixers, Celtics, one of them you're going to lose at the buzzer, the other one you're going to win by a miss at the buzzer, this is how I would have wanted it to go. So
Pretty ideal. Also, a good little takeaway from these last couple games, and as we kind of talked about in the pregame show, clearly the Pistons are just a better team than the Celtics. They've beaten the Celtics and they've beaten the Lakers, and the Celtics haven't beaten the Lakers.
Just don't
I
look at
think
the score.
mathematically speaking,
Just don't look at the score of the Pistons game tonight.
where they've been playing, I haven't looked.
They lost 118-91 at Golden State.
Well, the Warriors beat us too. Maybe they're just a better team.
And remember how I said Tobias Harris, right? 6 of 17 the game after the Lakers, after he lit us up. Blake Griffin. You want to guess his shooting tonight?
For three or overall?
Overall.
I'll go 5 of 14.
Oh, you were being very generous. He was
Really?
He was 1 of 8 tonight.
God damn it.
I'm telling you, it's something about playing the Lakers that people turn into like superheroes, and then they play the next game thinking they are superheroes, and then they just come crashing back to earth, and all of a sudden they can't hit a shot. It's the weirdest thing. It just it happens every game, and I guess it's going to happen to Daniel Tice in the next game because he was the guy. We tried to predict that before the game. We both said Marcus Smart. He didn't really shoot well. I did say Jeff Teague. Jeff Teague was still awful in this game, so I was glad to be wrong about that one. But Daniel Tice was kind of that guy. I mean, he finished 5'11", but he had 14 points and was kind of lighting it up early there. But he was kind of a pain in the butt for the Lakers. But the Lakers had somebody to match him in Montrezl Harrell. Kuzma had kind of a quiet 11-6 game. He was kind of your X factor for the Lakers, and I thought he hit some timely buckets. He was 3 of 7 from 3, so I mean that's pretty solid, and hit some timely threes. I thought kind of halt some momentum and things like that. But looking at Dennis Schroeder's stat line, I was kind of surprised. I was surprised to see his stat line be what it was because I thought he played better than his stats indicated. Like we saw some at least some more flashes of him doing some different things. He had a 3. He had a couple of really nice drives to the basket, stuff like that. So I think maybe slowly but surely he's starting to work his way kind of back into a rhythm, trying to work his way out of this slump that he's been in.
Yeah, I think he was kind of the like a good balance of being sort of calm and not going overboard, but also injecting that little bit of like dynamic energy that the Lakers need from him, like the change of pace. He was really good with that. He definitely got the better of Kemba a few times and got the better of Daniel Tice late in the game to put the Lakers up by 7 or whatever it was on that and one. He had a lot of really good moments like that. Yeah, you're right. Like the shooting is kind of an issue right now, but his shooting percentage could have easily been better if like one of the fouls that he was calling for went for him, or they called it, or whatever, whatever it may be. But yeah, I thought he played a really, really solid game today, and he was probably a pretty big part of why the Lakers were able to win this, considering LeBron was having a little bit of an off night. They needed somebody to be able to handle the ball and run some offense besides LeBron tonight, and I think Schroeder did a pretty damn good job of that.
Yeah, and they needed that too because the Celtics were throwing a lot of double teams at LeBron and trying to get the ball out of his hands a lot. And even though LeBron still hit some very very timely threes in this game in the fourth quarter there, that heat check went halfway down and came out. I was about to lose it if he made that, but no, they definitely needed that production, those 7 assists that Schroeder provided, and a couple of just attacks to the basket, breaking down the defense a little bit, kind of creating some other looks for some different guys. That was big. I just had this thought too with Paul Pierce, and kind of going back to Paul Pierce here for a second. He was saying like, oh, the Celtics should feel good because they were right there and they didn't get a lot out of whoever it was, Marcus Smart, I think, and so on, so and so. I feel like the Lakers should feel really good, not only because they got the win, but Tatum and Brown were really, really good in this game. Like, I don't know, as a duo, you can really play much better and be more efficient than they were. Like Tatum was 12 of 18, Jaylen Brown was 13 of 19, and combined they were 4 of 7 from the 3-point line. Like those two were insanely good. Celtics didn't get a whole lot elsewhere outside of Tice, but Anthony Davis 11 of 25, LeBron 7 of 17. KCP didn't score at all. He was 0 of 4, had a couple wide open looks. Marc Gasol only had 1 point, and the Lakers didn't get a ton of offense either. I mean, they got 27 out of Harrell and Kuzma. THT had 6 points, had a couple of assists. The Lakers had a very subpar offensive game and still came out on top, even though the Celtics, probably two best players, played extremely, extremely well. So to me, like, I guess to pull a Paul Pierce for the Lakers side, I feel pretty confident about that. That the Lakers still, I mean, it's frustrating the Lakers still didn't play overly well, but the Celtics are going to be a good team. They're going to be there in the mix in the East. And Lakers played a pretty subpar game, still found a way to win.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to win a game when your top 3 players are struggling shooting the ball, like the Lakers, with LeBron, AD, and KCP had today. So, I mean, to me, yeah, it's a pretty impressive showing if your defense is playing well enough and you're getting enough from your depth pieces like Kuzma, Trez, and Schroeder that you're still able to grind out a win against a supposed title contender. Then, yeah, I'm pretty encouraged by that overall, especially considering, what this last week has been in terms of Lakers basketball, them having a really bad loss against the Pistons and a tough one against the Sixers. I don't know. I feel pretty good about the way they competed and the way that they were able to get this win, despite things not really being perfect for them.
Yeah, they had to dig deep for this one against a pretty solid basketball team, a very well coached basketball team, and a team that just has kind of those younger legs, right? Their two main guys are still pretty young players, very energetic and athletic. Yeah, somehow, some way, but yeah, I mean the Lakers dig deep. Didn't play overly well, but still found a way to get it done. I felt like in the third quarter, they looked like a team that was like, I'm tired of this road trip. I'm ready to go home, sleep in my own bed. Like, they looked a little lethargic in that third quarter. And I'm sure they are ready to go home. Like, this has been a long road trip for them. They only got one game left to go. They got a Hawks team up next that is pretty good. I mean, these are not the Hawks that we've seen the last couple of years. They are 10-9. I don't think they're fully healthy. I think Bogdanovich is out for a while. But they're a young team, another team with young legs. They're probably going to play with a lot of energy, play pretty fast, and they're going to do a lot of different things. I mean, Trae Young is legitimately a really, really good player. They've got a lot of guys. DeAndre Hunter's having a really good year. They're just young, man, but they're energetic. I think that they're a pretty good team. Plus, we're going up against former Laker legend Rajon Rondo.
I thought you were going to say Laker legend DeAndre Hunter.
Him too.
I think he's going to be out because he had a little bit of an injury. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how Rondo's doing. I haven't really watched the Hawks this year quite a lot, but pretty excited to see how that team is meshing because they did a lot in the offseason. They have a lot of new pieces. But I was never one to really go with the hype. I think they're better than last year just because of how many better players that they have around, but their defense, I think, is still a pretty big issue. So that might be a pretty good game for the Lakers to kind of get their offense back together after a few kind of rough days in terms of shooting the ball. I think they're going to get some pretty good open looks.
Yeah, and hopefully, you never know how it's going to go. Last game of a road trip, I think I can see it going like either way. I can see the Lakers being really motivated, like, all right, let's play really hard, let's get through this game, let's get a win, let's go back home. And then, we can kind of relax, get back home, kind of settle back down. But I could also see the Lakers being like, all right, whatever. It's the last game of the road trip. Let's get at it. Let's just do this thing, and then let's get out of here. So they could also be very, very lethargic in that game as well. So it'll be interesting to watch, but that's Monday. Looks like 4:30 Pacific time. Gotta love those East games and the real early start times. So Monday night, February 1st. Start off a new month. Let's start off a new month with a win. Let's start a winning streak. They kept calling the Lakers losing 2 games in a row as like a losing streak. I was like, so, like, how is losing 2 games a losing streak? Come on.
It's more of a losing blip, a losing trend. I don't know. Not much of a streak.
Yeah,
Um,
3 or more is a
another
streak.
another aspect of this is Dennis Schroeder, who we just talked about when we did our little pregame stream, having a rough January. He gets to start a new month in a revenge game against the Hawks. I'm into it. And we're looking at a 20-point Dennis Schroeder game on Monday, I think.
That's true. We need a good nickname for Schroeder. I was thinking when he hit that bank shot and one, I was like, we got to. Lakers Twitter needs to come up with like a really good nickname that sticks with him. Like we haven't really gotten there yet. I've seen some people call him Dennis the Menace, but it's like
LeBron is really forcing Dennis the Menace in every single post game.
I mean, I guess it's all right, but it's like I feel like we can do better than Dennis the Menace.
Darius Soriano tweeted out "meep meep" when he went at Daniel Tice, like the Roadrunner. So I kind of like calling him Roadrunner.
I was gonna say it's got to be something to do with his speed because he definitely has speed on this team that I don't think any other Laker necessarily has, or speed and quickness with the basketball in his hands. So somebody's got to come up with a good nickname that's gonna stick because he deserves it, man. He's got a skill set that nobody else on the team has, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. So, Bevers has joined the chat. Bevers, I'm a little disappointed that you didn't watch the game, but I'm assuming you know the end result, so you can probably watch with a big smile on your face, knowing how it's going to end. Because if you watched it live, your heart definitely went through a roller coaster of emotions, and it stopped for about a second and a half while Kemba Walker's last jumper floated in the air, and then Tice had an opportunity for a putback. But we also had somebody say Frank Vogel is the most handsome coach in the NBA. I'm halfway convinced that that's Anthony Davis's burner account.
I've been saying, man, this entire team watches their show. Frank Vogel, absolutely. We talked to him in the pregame about giving Alex Caruso more run, and he did it. I think they're all watching. So either that is AD's burner or it's Frank Vogel's burner. He's calling himself the most handsome coach in the league. Either way, I agree.
Maybe it's a joint burner. Maybe they're like taking turns, or they're just laughing in their hotel or on the team plane heading to Atlanta. No, I mean, I would think that they watch because I looked directly into the camera in the pregame show and told Frank Vogel to play THT and Alex Caruso some more. And hey, they went to a 9-man rotation where both of them played roughly 20 minutes each. So thank you, Frank Vogel. Thank you.
Those tablets that they have on the sideline, that's not to show film or anything. They're actually watching our streams during the game or beforehand.
I respect it. I mean, that's what we're here for, Frank. We're just here to help. I mean, obviously my predictions aren't great. I said the Lakers Celtics game would go over 219.5. Teams didn't even hit 200. I said Jeff Teague would be that guy that would be the role player that goes off, and he deliberately he just was missing shots left and right. So
maybe they keyed in on Marcus Smart and Jeff Teague because we said they could go off. Frank Vogel, man, he's 1,000 IQ. He's thinking.
I like where your head's at. I like it. All right. Lakers have the Hawks on Monday. I don't know if I will be available because I have class Monday night, and it's the class that goes beyond the designated allotment that she's been given. So we'll have to see how that goes. But it is also an early start time, so I'd have to watch it during class, which would probably honestly be more entertaining than that class. But Bevers had a question. Do you guys think Lakers need to make an adjustment to the starting five? Sorry if you've talked about this already. We have not talked about this. We talked about kind of the rotation in the pregame stream about getting THT and Caruso some more minutes, and they got out there a little bit earlier. I thought Caruso should have gotten in a little quicker in the third quarter. He came in like the last possession of the third quarter because the Lakers were very flat coming out of halftime, and I thought Caruso could have picked up the energy, and he did in the fourth quarter. So it ultimately worked out, but I thought he could have come in earlier. As far as the starting five, I think they might go with a different starting five when the playoffs roll around. But as for right now, I think it's fine. I mean, they started the game out pretty strong in this game, and I don't think the starters really had much of an issue. I don't think it's going to be their starting five all the way throughout the playoffs, but for now, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think if you want the Lakers to change their starting five, it's because you want their bench units to be stronger. Because I think the starting five in general all year has been really good. I don't have the numbers up right now, but their net rating has generally been like above 20. Might have dropped a little bit over these last couple of games just because they've had some rough nights, but I would expect it to be still pretty good. Um, I would understand this other sentiment of maybe put somebody like Schroeder on the bench so that he can be the lead ball handler there and get him some better looks and hopefully kind of balance those lineups a little bit. But right now, I don't think I would make a change. I think I would just kind of stick with this, try to keep building that chemistry. And then, if I, you know, halfway through the season, it's still not really working out or the bench isn't doing enough, then maybe you make a little bit of a change. But right now, I'm pretty happy with that starting five.
Two things would come to my mind, I guess, if you were to make a change in the starting five, and I don't think it's something that they would do now. I think it would be something like down the road when the games really start to matter. I could see them bringing Marc Gasol off the bench and putting in Montrezl Harrell and moving AD to the five. Obviously, Marc Gasol doesn't really affect the team's spacing offensively, and he gives them kind of that added playmaking element. But I think the Lakers could play a lot faster if they went with Montrezl Harrell in place of Marc Gasol. So that's something they could possibly explore. I think Marc Gasol's fine. Obviously, you'd like to get a little more offensive production out of him, but you kind of know what you're getting out of him at this stage of his career, and I think he still does a pretty solid job, even though he's not going to really fill up the box score on a lot of nights. And another thing too, Honi, you alluded to it, and some people have suggested it, is moving Schroeder to the bench, and I think you could put a guy like Alex Caruso in there, and then you could basically roll with THT and Dennis Schroeder as kind of your two main guards off the bench, maybe with Wesley Matthews and Kuzma and Harrell or whatever. You can go a number of different combinations, but I could see Caruso starting in place of Schroeder to give you a little more defense. Plus, I just think, like I said, I think Caruso is honestly like the perfect complement next to LeBron. When you have LeBron doing the playmaking and all that, you have Caruso being able to guard opposing point guards and take that main like perimeter defensive assignment, assuming it's not like a wing player. So yeah, you could do a number of different things. Plus, I think Schroeder with second units would absolutely light it up. So the Lakers have some flexibility, but as for right now, I don't think I don't think they need to really do much. I mean, I think they're what 14-6 now. So
Sounds right to me.
15-6. Excuse me, they were 14-6 coming in. But yeah, they're 15-6, so I'm not going to be overly critical losing like a couple games on a long road trip. Even though there's no fans. Although I wish that arena was packed tonight to have the Lakers rip their hearts out. That would have been beautiful. But hey, they won in front of all those banners that were won 2 centuries ago. So that's nearly as good.
20,000 fans getting their hearts crushed by Alex Caruso getting back in transition would have been a wonderful sight. But
God, they would love Alex Caruso. That's all I'm going to say. But all right, let's go back to the chat. AD, Braun, Marc Gasol in the same lineup in a Laker uniform. You gotta love it. It's pretty crazy. Like if you'd have told me that like 3 years ago, I'd have been like, no, like there's no way we can make that happen. Of course, Anthony Davis was a guy that like I was like, man, if the Lakers ever get that guy, I will just lose it. And like, because I thought it would never happen. Like he's just, it's one of those superstars they'll never be able to get. And then, shout out to Clutch and the whole team over there. But Bever's also. Oh.
My favorite Marc Gasol moment at this game was when THC went to the bench with like a hand injury and he was telling him to like grab his elbow and do this thing because apparently all the Gasol brothers have to be doctors on the side.
Hey, medical advice runs in the family, okay? So never question the Gasols. That's the main lesson. It's just if a Gasol says to do something, you just do it. They're just too kind-hearted, and they just want the very best for everybody. So bless that family. Bless the Gasol family. How do you think the minutes will go if Dennis goes to the bench? I think it would probably be about the same, assuming you put Bevers. I'm assuming you put like Caruso in that spot. I think it would probably be about the same. I don't think you want to play, as much as we pound the table to say, hey, give Caruso more minutes. I don't think you want to play him too many minutes because you don't want to wear him out. And with high energy, high effort players, you want them to remain that way. And if you play them 36, 37 minutes, at a certain point, they're probably going to run out of gas and not really be the same players. So I figure the minutes would probably be about what they are now, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think AC is probably like a 30-minute cap type of player, unless it's a big game and he's having a great game, and then you keep him in. But even as a starter, I don't think he would really ever go over that much. And Shooter would obviously get the rest of the minutes there, and they'd play a little bit together. So I think overall, whichever four, if it is four guards that play, or if they go into the five, I think Vogel's going to keep all their minutes pretty equal for the most part, even though Shooter's been getting a lot of minutes relative to everybody else to start this year. But I think that's just a matter of one, keeping guys fresh, and two, trying to figure out what you have in him, and whether he is suited to be a starter or if he should go to the bench or whatnot. I think that's more that factor rather than Vogel thinking that he is his best option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of different factors I think that go into these lineups, and Frank Vogel has been very open that he is just basically like a mad scientist at this point, just experimenting his ass off with this team, and he's got so many weapons at his disposal that I think he's just trying to mix and match and try to figure out what combinations work, which combinations don't, and it's going to be a process for sure. And the Lakers might lose some games in that process because they're trying to figure it out, but that's how it goes. As long as they have it all figured out by the time the playoffs roll around, they're going to be just fine. Well, Bevers, you know the answer to that question from Honi. If JaVale gets bought out, do you want the Lakers to pursue? Obviously, yes. I mean, Honi probably wants the Lakers to trade everybody on their team to get JaVale back, but I think he'd be worth it because, that's one thing we've been saying since the offseason is one thing I think you could improve this roster is getting another legitimate center as insurance in case Marc Gasol, gets hurt, because, he is an older player. Anthony Davis has a history of kind of getting those minor injuries, getting dinged up a little bit. Just getting that insurance because you don't have a true center or a big with center size behind those two, whereas last year the Lakers had three of those guys, and they used it to their advantage quite often. So, I mean, JaVale is definitely a guy I think if he gets bought out, the Lakers could take a look at and bring back.
One thing, if he gets bought out by the Cavs, they legally cannot bring him back, so he has to get traded to someplace and then get bought out, which fine, or they can just trade for him, obviously. Two, yes, they should get JaVale back, and they should bring the Martin twins over from Charlotte. That is a dynasty in the making. That's all I have to say.
I am disgusted right now that you would even bring that energy onto the stream, and that's as far as I'm gonna go. I'm sitting here in a Boise State shirt, and you're gonna just go at me like that? Okay. I mean,
bring back Luke Babbitt from quasi-retirement too. Let's go.
Jesus.
Dynasty.
All right, we're done. This is over. Honi coming in with that. No, Honi's coming in with nothing. I'm not giving him any credit.
You get me, Bevers.
All right, last
Actually, I'm sending you a $5 check for asking that question.
$5 check. You could at least be really generous and send a Popeye chicken sandwich.
I'll send money for it because I don't think it'll. I don't know where you live, but I don't think it being sent in the mail is the best idea.
I'm a little disappointed in your lack of faith in the Popeye chicken sandwich. Last comment we got. I think if Schroeder goes to the bench, they just slide Braun to point guard and bring Wesley Matthews into the starting five to bring shooting for the ball. And yeah, I mean, that's another thing. I mean, it was kind of funny that, well, not funny, but it was interesting, I guess, that West did not play tonight as the Lakers continue to experiment, went with a shorter rotation. but he's going to have a role on this team, and probably a fairly important one, whether it's off the bench, whether he gets put in the starting lineup later on. But that is another option, and that's one of those things that we keep saying, that Frank Vogel has so many options and so many combinations that he can do that he probably, I mean, honestly, 72 games might not even be enough for him to get like good sample sizes on certain combinations.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely isn't, especially with these like all 5 of the guards on the Lakers are kind of like at similar levels. I think KCP is the best one, and THC or maybe West right now is probably the worst one. But like the little differences between those guys isn't much. So I think it's just a matter of what you need at a given time, and I think Vogel is mostly just trying to figure out what each one can provide. Both positively and negatively, and kind of figure out what the best lineup combinations to get those guys on the floor is.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have to be able to figure all that out. It's a hell of a lot better than being a team that is just searching for any good lineups. Because the Lakers, we've definitely seen the Lakers have those kind of issues the past, I don't know, 7-8 years before last season. So it's nice to be on the other end of that once again, and it feels right. It feels right to just that the Lakers have too many good players that it's just such an issue.
It is my favorite thing to complain about with the Lakers is how can they get all these good players on the floor? Such an issue.
I think the NBA should just make an exception and let us play like 8 players at the same time.
We're so oppressed.
I mean, the Lakers were playing 8-on-5 tonight, so I mean, we could have used 3 more players. So, but hey, the league is against the Lakers. It's very, very obvious. The underdog Lakers get out of Boston with a win. Hashtag We Believe 2.0. The We Believe Lakers are back and 15-6, doing pretty well. So we're just trudging along, man, trudging along in this season, and I keep saying, like, I'm ready for the playoffs to start already. Like, I'm enjoying this team. This team is a lot of fun. So not to take away from them, but I'm ready for the games to crank back up and see like full intensity all the time and see this team really try and play to its full potential. Because it's very obvious that there are times where some games they just don't really care all that much about, and quite frankly, I don't blame them given the circumstances. So.
Yeah, it's good that they made some changes in the offseason to give us a little bit of something to look forward to with these games, and like trying to learn more about these new players and how they work with the team. But other than that, I'm with you. I'm just like waiting, biding my time until the playoffs start and we can talk shit again.
That's the whole thing is like, I'm not even going to get upset that much at losses. Obviously, it's frustrating because the full potential that this team has and what like level they can hit. So I get that. It's frustrating in that respect, but as long as this team just continues to stay healthy, knock on wood, just stay healthy, get into the playoffs healthy, and we said the same thing last year, just get into the playoffs healthy, and I will trust that the team will not be beaten 4 out of 7 times. And that's how I feel about this team, and hopefully that continues, and Lakers can officially pass the Boston Celtics in titles, because I'm tired of the Celtics fans flexing their muscle over some titles that their great-grandfather got to witness, but they did not get to witness themselves. So,
you know what? I wish I had been around to watch my team win some titles during the Cold War, but we'll just have to do with our sticks in this century, I guess.
Those Bob Cousy dribbling with his right hand, shooting 38% from the field titles must have been just absolutely thrilling. So congrats to you guys. Also, that graphic that was floating around, like the 5 titles in Minneapolis and 1 Disney World Championship. I got news for you, Boston. Your ass was in Disney World too. You didn't make it.
Lost to a white man, and it wasn't even Alex Caruso. It was Tyler Hero.
You lost to that snarling. That's as far as I can even go without. Yeah. Oh man. Nothing like discrediting a team for winning a title when I mean, we're doing it because they won a title when there was 8 teams in the league and the Lakers didn't. But hey, the Lakers have evolved. Just saying.
Right.
Since the end of the '80s, what's the title count? That's all I'm gonna say. In our lifetime, honey. That's all I'm saying. That's all that really matters. We'll start with '92 because you're younger and you make me feel old. Because apparently I'm like 30, whatever the hell that means.
It's pretty close.
No, it's not. Shut your mouth. So, since '92, that's when it matters. The Lakers are well ahead of the Celtics. God, you are just, that's strike two, honey. You didn't even have to say anything, but it's strike two.
I'm ready for strike three. There was some pretty big quarterback news today. What does Carson Wentz think about this?
Listen, that's not even strike worthy. I'm trying to get out of Philly. Did you see Philly's the Eagles head coach trying to reach his word count total like in that press conference? Oh man.
That's how I feel on these podcasts. Sometimes I can't make too much fun.
It's true. Like if I had to do any kind of like public speaking, even when in front of like TV monitors or whatever they got set up for these Zoom press conferences, I'd probably sound even worse. So, all jokes aside, all that matters tonight is the Lakers won. They beat the Celtics. They got that Celtic ass. It wasn't convincingly, but they still got it. And they moved to 15-6. Celtics dropped to 10-8. Yeah, can't relate. Can't relate to
stuff. You gotta wonder if Brad Stevens is on the hot seat.
Makes you think. Quick question though: would you rather have Brad Stevens or would you rather have LeBron James? Oh man, I got too much pettiness in my soul sometimes. All right, that's a good note to end on. Shout out to LeBron James, just because he's a Los Angeles Laker. Like,
absolutely.
Just shout out to LeBron. I was actually in an unrelated note. I was kind of just doing like some deep cleaning around my house today, and I came across this red shirt that I had like buried away, and I like pull it out, and it was a Portland Trailblazer shirt, and I'm like, where did this come from? I remembered why I kept it. First game that LeBron was a Laker was at Portland, and they had those shirts everywhere. It just kind of made me think, again, shout out to LeBron for being a Los Angeles Laker. Just being it. Like, hasn't played overly well the last couple games compared to his standards, but just shout out to LeBron.
Shout out to LeBron.
A Los Angeles Laker. So, all right, we're getting out of here. Yeah, I got nothing. I don't know. My heart is still like recovering from the end of that game. So, as always, guys, I guess I'll just plug everything and then we'll get out of here since this thing is just going way off the tracks. Twitch.tv/Lakers Outsiders. Follow us there, or you can subscribe for as little as $6 a month and support the site. You can hit up our Patreon link as well. Hani, I believe it's patreon.com/Lakers Outsiders, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Also, if you just go on our Twitter bio has a link tree. That has links to everything, so you can always go through there as well.
There you go. You can also like and follow us on Facebook for these live streams. And, of course, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. We always live stream on all three of those platforms. We'll not be putting the pre-game show up on the podcast platforms, but this one will. May have to edit the end of it because we've gone way off the rails. Shout out to Dave Too Fresh on Twitch for giving us some kind remarks about the quality.
Is AC Fresh Alex Caruso's burner? Is he AC Fresh?
Hey man, shout out to you, Dave. I appreciate the kind remarks because I have single-handedly derailed the end of this show, and it's been something, that's for sure. But follow us on those three platforms. You'll get the live streams. This one's going to go up on all the podcast platforms probably tomorrow morning. And we'll be back. I can't really promise when we'll be back. My class schedule and work schedule kind of dictates my entire life. So I would love to on Monday if my class gets out early enough, since it is an earlier start time. That would be ideal. But if not, I can try. We'll definitely be back. I mean, at least once a week. The weekends are obviously a lot easier for both of us, and we'll try to be back on as much as we possibly can. And if we're not, I apologize. Like I said, we will at least do once a week for sure. But if we're not on more than that, I apologize. Just life is kind of crazy right now for our schedules, and it's tough to kind of coordinate and kind of get on the same screen at the same time. So we're going to do our best, but we appreciate you guys giving us the support and following us, and the kind remarks. It really does mean a lot to us. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. So, all right, you can follow Honi on Twitter at HONIAHM. You can follow me on Twitter at Gary Kester, and you can also follow my personal Twitch account. I think I might go play some video games or something, and have a little fun and talk some more Lakers basketball or talk some football. We had a big trade in the NFL today, another LA sports team making a move. So we can talk about that. My Twitch is just, it's right up on the screen. Let's see, other hand, right down there. Latest subscriber, SwishGK. So you can follow me on Twitch as well, and we can continue talking about whatever you want to talk about. So I'll be on there in a little bit. Honi, thanks again. Go get some rest. Have sweet dreams of the Lakers beating the Celtics. And you guys all have a good night. Be safe out there. But until next time, this is Gary Kester with Honi Ahmadian and the Lakers Outsiders signing off.
Shout out to Celtics killers Marshawn Brooks, Kent Bazemore, and Ryan Kelly.